Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be talking about researching causes of schizophrenia and some of the methodological issues that are involved. So we're talking principally, in fact, about ignorance and about incompetence in investigating this debilitating condition called schizophrenia. There has also been a myth that's developed that claims that schizophrenia rates are similar across all countries around the world, and this myth continues to be reported as fact in many publications. But national schizophrenia rates are very varied, and figures will be shown to support this. This data is very easy to obtain from the World Health Organization, but people don't seem to understand that they can solve a problem simply by looking up data. Now, a little bit about the background. Schizophrenia was known as early as the ancient Greeks, although they didn't obviously use the word schizophrenia. In 1859, Darwin published his monograph on the origin of the species, and in 1865, it was Gregor Mendel who discovered the gene, although again, he didn't use the word gene, that came later. But he stated words to the effect that now that we've got this, concept, finding a cause for schizophrenia was possible. And it was in 1911 that Bleuler used the name schizophrenia for the first time, and that's really when our modern conception of schizophrenia started up. Now, the idea that genes cause schizophrenia became fashionable, and the quest began to find the gene responsible, but without any success whatsoever. There have been many studies that claim to have shown a genetic basis as cause of schizophrenia, and there are three main types to this research, and I'm going to give an example of each of the types. The first type is twin studies. For example, in 1966, Gottesman and Shield published their study of monozygotic twins. Now note the wording. They set out to demonstrate that genes cause schizophrenia. In order to achieve this, they decided to examine concordance rates between monozygotic twins. And over 16 years, they found 24 hospitalised males who were one half of a pair of monozygotic twins. The matching non-hospitalised 24 male twins were interviewed, but only 4 of the matching twins was diagnosed as having schizophrenia. That is, the concordance rate was 16%. Thereby clearly demonstrating that it is impossible for genes to cause schizophrenia. They refused to accept the null hypothesis. What did they do? Instead, they changed the definition of schizophrenia and re-interviewed the remaining 20 males. The concordance rate was still only raised to 10 out of 24, and that is 42%. Now, I told this story to one of my A-level psychology students, George, and George immediately said, "That's cheating." George got a mark of 100% for his psychology module. I would give Gottesman and Shields a mark of about 40 for their research. In spite of clear evidence that genes cannot be responsible for schizophrenia because monozygotic twins share 99% of their genes, they still accepted the experimental hypothesis with a rider that environment plays some sort of part. This was a type 1 error. Now, the second type of research methods, there's only one of many such twin adoption studies. There have been many done since, but none of them have shown any genuine evidence of gene involvement, but they all claim there is evidence of gene involvement. Now, the second method is family studies. For example, Miller et al. 2000 reported on a Scottish family that had 6 family members who had mental health problems. And this is the URL. After the onset of psychosis, note, after the onset of psychosis, biological samples were taken and DNA analysed. At the epigenetic level, abnormalities on 2 alleles were found, and they were named disc 1 and disc 2. Now, they stated that these abnormalities caused schizophrenia, but they did not take any samples before the onset of psychosis, nor did they consider other explanations for the finding. It is also unclear whose DNA was taken. There is much missing information in this particular article. They stated this family may be atypical due to the wide spectrum of disorder present: schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar affective disorder, unipolar affective disorder, and note, adolescent conduct disorder. Yet they seem to claim that only 2 genes were responsible for all this. It's official. When adolescents are badly behaved, it's caused by their genes. I am, of course, being sarcastic. Now, the third type is meta-analysis. For example, results of a Swedish study were published. This was by Lichtenstein et al., 2009, published in The Lancet. It used medical data for the whole of Sweden. They undertook a multivariate GLM analysis of family structure and schizophrenia prevalence. They concluded that we showed evidence that schizophrenia and bipolar disorder partly share a common genetic cause. They did no such thing. The diagnosis of schizophrenia in both parent and child does not demonstrate genetic cause and effect, merely co-occurrence. And it is impossible to determine environmental variable impact from statistically analysing family structure alone, by definition. However, these obvious limitations were ignored by the researchers. They appeared to want to demonstrate that genes are mostly responsible and willfully ignored other possibilities. Researchers undertaking all such studies are badly informed about the nature of genes themselves, and there are 2 important issues that are relevant. They are the belief that genes are fixed and immutable at birth, and genes are capable of causing problems such as psychoses, among others. I will return to these issues later. None of these studies gave serious consideration to environment as possible cause. Moreover, any allusions to environment were vague ideas. Yet there is considerable evidence that points to specific environmental factors as being responsible. Various professionals, such as Lang and Esterson, 1964, for example, cited evidence of certain interaction patterns among family members as being present in all diagnosed as schizophrenic, but Lang was largely ignored. So I decided to do a little bit of research of my own. I examined national schizophrenia rates to determine if there was any evidence at the societal level to support a hypothesis of environmental association of any type. So, data for 192 member countries were downloaded from the World Health Organization website, and national schizophrenia rates were rank ordered on the basis of age standardized daily rates from highest to lowest. Daily stands for disability adjusted life year. And this was my dependent variable. And this was the result. You can see very clearly that the highest rates of schizophrenia are in East Asia, around this area, and in the Pacific. Indonesia, in fact, has the highest schizophrenia rate in the world. Now, the interesting thing is Indonesia is smack bang next to Australia, and Australia has the lowest schizophrenia rate in the world. You can see also that Western Europe and North America have very, very low rates of schizophrenia. So there are strong regional differences. Now, in tandem with this, I stuck in this slide out of interest. This is also the rate of psychiatrists per 100,000 of the population. This is also published by WHO. And you can see that those countries that have lowest rates of schizophrenia also have greatest numbers of psychiatrists. So we've got Western Europe again, Australia and North America. And Africa and Asia, where there are high rates of schizophrenia, have very, very few psychiatrists, or sometimes none at all, although in some countries their information is not available. Now, going back to my correlation study, I chose it was quite speculative at first because I had no idea what was going to be of relevance. So being a sociologist, I thought, education, social class, these are going to be important. And I did an initial analysis and I was quite gobsmacked at some of the results. And as a result of that initial analysis, I then went back to the drawing board and added other variables. Those other variables were torture, capital punishment, and war. My final list consisted of 3 on education: religiosity rates, religions, climate, human development index, population density, type of government, ethnicity, per capita income, region, intentional homicide rate, and the 3 that I've already mentioned. Now, I found that R was quite low, and I thought, this is surprising. So I looked over the data by hand and saw that there were definite patterns at the extremes. So I put together a database consisting only of the 12 top-ranked and the 12 bottom-ranked countries, and these are they. So you can see Indonesia has twice the daily rate of Australia at the bottom. The top-ranked countries are Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Brunei, Singapore, Tuvalu, Laos, Uzbekistan, Marshall Islands, and Myanmar. And the bottom, Australia, Iceland, Monaco, San Marino, Malta, Greece, Austria, UK, Luxembourg, Italy, Ireland, and the USA.
Can you explain what the units are there, please?
I will do that later. Please wait. I'm sure a lot of you have got questions about my data, so please wait to the end. Now, the results of correlational analysis, these were they. Climate, 0.8. Human Development Index, 0.79. War, 0.78. Torture, 0.76. Religiosity, 0.7. Capital punishment, 0.6. Per capita income, 0.59. Intentional homicide rate, minus 0.5. PISA country educational ranks, minus 0.37. Adult literacy rates, 0.3, and so on. The conclusions are high national schizophrenia rates are associated with low levels of human development, that is health, income and education factors, and high internal levels of conflict such as war, torture, murder and capital punishment. Religiosity rates, I have done a lot of analysis other than what I've got here, and it's become clear that religiosity rates largely reflect national development rates and are an effect, not a cause. Now, I also did some descriptive analysis, and the 12 lowest ranked countries had 11 of them had parliamentary democracy as government. 11 were ethnically homogeneous and all were culturally European, whereas the 12 highest ranked countries, 9 of the 12 had military dictatorships or coercive governments. They were ethnically heterogeneous and they were all culturally East Asian or Pacific. These statistics provide evidence that national schizophrenia rates are associated with conflict, coercion, level of control, and value systems. That is, environment is extremely important. It is therefore likely that environment is also extremely important at the individual level, and that forms of conflict within the home are also associated with schizophrenia levels. Now, going back to what I said about genes earlier, properly conducted gene studies elsewhere have revealed further interesting information about the nature of genes. For example, Idagdur, 2008, conducted a study of Moroccan Berbers. They demonstrated that genetic change was caused by environment. They concluded that as many as 1/3 of genes are affected by lifestyle and geography. Idagdur stated, the most important implication of this study is that people with the same genetic makeup can be in different environments and have different expression profiles. The same gene can be expressed in the city but not in a rural place because of the environment. So you must look at the environment when studying association between gene and disease. Conclusions: genes are not fixed and immutable at birth. They change during a person's lifetime in response to environment. Genes are blunt tools. They do not have the capacity to cause problems such as psychoses, autism, and other similar problems. The nature-nurture debate is largely over. It is mostly nature through nurture for these particular set of genes. It is likely that the onset of problems such as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder cause change at the epigenetic level. This has implications for evolutionary theory. Change may not be as random as Darwin envisaged, and it is likely that schizophrenia itself is caused by environmental factors such as types of family interaction and levels of family conflict. However, for 150 years, medical researchers have been metaphorically burying their head in the sand by denying that schizophrenia is environmentally caused. The lives of many people continue to be damaged and many sufferers commit suicide. The NHS continues to fund treatment using expensive drugs, costly infrastructure, and employing many staff. Research money is also wasted. This is shameful and it is irresponsible. Because of attitudes and values within the medical profession, it is not likely that anyone from a medical background will identify genuine causes of schizophrenia and other forms of psychosis. Such progress is more likely to come from within the social sciences. Thank you.